Good morning! Nice of you guys to drop by!
What a piece of junk!
What are you talking about?
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
Look, don't worry. Everything's gonna be fine. Trust me.
I don't know what all this trouble is about, but I'm sure it must be your fault. Don't get technical with me.
This bickering is pointless.
Don't everybody thank me at once.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
I'm glad you're here to tell us these things.
How could you even say that?
I got a bad feeling about this.
Well, come on. Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Would you get going, you pirate?
Get in there, you big furry-o! I don't care what you smell!
I'm getting too old for this sort of thing.
If what you've told me is true, you will have gained my trust.
I like the sound of that.
Get a shuttle ready.
I don't know. Fly casual.
Shuttle Tydirium, what is your cargo and destination?
Transmission commencing.
Hey everybody, thanks again for tuning into another exciting episode of the Shuttle Tydirium Podcast, where we make the mistakes so you don't have to. We're also the mothership of Casual X-Wing. So, I am Jim Chadwick, Captain Chadwick. I am head of the shuttle here. You can know me as Hey Chadwick on the FFG forums or Board Game Geek or Reddit sometimes. But I have sitting next to me my co-pilot, Phil Mead. How's it going, Phil?
I'm doing great. We recently took the shuttle on some interesting expeditions. We made a delivery to a very wet asteroid in the Hoth system. There was a bunch of Minox there that we had a chat with.
Minox?
Yeah, Minox. We made a little delivery to them. And, you know, I gotta say that the Ewok crew really had a great time after we left because there were a bunch of Minox still stuck to our hull. And, you know, of course we, you know, made our crew go clean them off. But, you know, I think Minox turned out to be really delicious, according to our crew. I didn't partake, but it looked like they were having a really good time.
And depending on which meal you get today, you might get a side dish.
Yeah, it's one of the specials today. Ask us about our special.
Yeah, the Minox special.
Yeah,
you might have
Minox special. Yes. We also had a run-in with a interesting security and safety inspection patrol, headed up by one Richard White. It's sort of an unconventional-looking ship.
Wait,
I didn't see any.
Calvin Tiberius.
Oh yeah, Calvin Tiberius. I didn't see any, official Imperial markings on their ship. I'm sure they are getting around to that. And it was kind of a non-standard design. But they invited the whole crew on board while they were making their inspection. We also had a nice chat with them.
Everything was nice and tidy once they left. I mean, I'm sure they just helped out.
Yeah. They were just, I'm sure everything was above board.
We moved a little faster. I almost, as if they lightened their load a
little
bit.
I think they must have misplaced my stamp collection after they cleaned up, because I can't seem to find it anywhere. Also, I was talking to some of the Ewok crew. They seem to have lost track of some of the steaks that they had in the freezer. They had some, special steaks that they've been saving from Endor. They're kind of upset. I don't know what was so special about this meat, but I'm sure it'll turn up somewhere.
I think I've tried it before. It tastes like chicken.
Yeah. It's some kind of white meat. It's it's not pork, but it's kind of close.
Well, we can always bring in our head of human resources in case the Ewoks act up. So, J-Bot, he's our cranky protocol droid. How you doing, J-Bot?
I'm doing pretty well, actually. I'm very pleased with how the Ewok crew has kind of held its own over the last few visitations that we've had, the last few interactions we've had with other ships. I'm a little disappointed that I wasn't able to come out of my security hold and deal with the other crews as much as I'd like to, but I realize that's not my job to do. That's you guys. Y'all are the face of the shuttle. I'm just here making sure that everything runs smoothly. And I'm happy to report that we are no longer booked for that show of hoarders because I was able to actually get the crew and the Ewoks to get rid of all that extra junk that we've been, accumulating over the time. So, whoever those other crews were, I wasn't really involved, so I don't really know who they were. And you're definitely not going to find my fingerprints on any of their ships. But if they get stopped by the Imperial patrols, they might want to make sure that their cargo holds have been completely scoured beforehand because they may find a few gifts from the Ewoks that they weren't expecting. And anything they find with my name on it is definitely just not real. It's totally fake.
Or it was your signature saying get rid of it. That it was.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a security officer, so I figured a security, kind of a black ops sort of ship would want these sorts of, illegal goods on their ship and not on our ship, because that's what I do is I collect illegal stuff and I give it to the proper authorities. If they happen to be an unmarked ship and credits tend to change hands, I can't. That's just part of doing business in the Empire.
All right, excellent. Well,
but yes, we have lots of cargo space now, so that's why we were able to collect so many Minox, and we should be feasting on those for a while now.
Let's make our chief engineer happy. Spaceman Biff, how you doing?
I'm great. This totally rocked the little excursions that we've made. I too, like J-Bot, recognize that people we in the back of the ship have to stay with the ship to make sure nothing happens to it, especially when we're visiting asteroids that are inhabited by Minox. But I'm kind of loving two entirely different worlds right now, with the first stop and getting stocked up on the Minoc meat, and our little Ewok buddies are making some kickin' Minoc ale down in the hold right now. Something with the mucus from the suckers on the Minoc mouths or something, but
it's better not to know. It's
fabulous.
Don't ask how the cake was made, just enjoy the cake.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And
with all the
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, with all the extra room as a result of our second visit, we've got a couple of extra stills now set up down in the hole, so we can start really cranking out more of the Minoc ale. But we are going to need more mucus, so I'm going to send you guys forward to do more socialization and promotion and stuff, so that we've got plenty of opportunities to send the Ewoks out to get more.
We might just send the Ewok to talk to more of the crew, the passengers.
And there may or may not be some extra, hyperdrive parts that I may have found lying around here or there.
Oh, is that where that came from?
Oh, I just found them while we were cleaning up.
I have to say, it was a lot of fun doing the Minoc show, and that I just downloaded it today, but have not had a chance to listen to it yet.
Yeah, in case you guys haven't picked up, we had guest spots on Scum and Villainy podcast and Minoc Squadron. So, big shout out to them. Thank you for having us on. I also did a interview last night with Gold Squadron podcast, so that should be coming up soon. I didn't think of anything funny to say about that, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, rebel scum. What are you going to do?
It was a lot of fun. So we did Scum and Villainy first, just to be official, and then Minoc copied them, just to throw that out there.
But they got their episode out first, so
but they
edit better, I guess.
So this is like a light bulb situation.
So I guess it's edit good.
Edit good.
Okay.
All right.
It's probably good.
Yes, it'll fly good. But we can move on from that. I do have a captain's question with the latest news that came out. So we're doing twice a week now, and man, that news came out last week. I was like, oh, we're not recording. Dang it. Oh, I want to talk about it so much. So I did not make any lists this week, but I do have a captain's question. So which ship would you rather fly, whether with the old info or the new that gets you excited? Which ship is more exciting to you? Is it the Carax Fighter or is it the Star Viper?
So I can answer first. I think for me, it's the Star Viper, just because I have been a Star Viper fan, specifically a Prince Shizor fan since day one. I think since that ability was first spoiled, way back. I think it must have been like 2 years ago, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. Was it 3 years ago?
Before TLTs.
Christ. Yeah, before TLTs, before the age of TLTs. I just thought it was a really, really interesting ability because I saw the potential right away to really use this ability to mess with your enemy's target priority. And what I mean is you could, because Shizor's ability, if you don't know it, Shizor's ability reads, when defending, a friendly ship at range 1 may suffer 1 uncancelled hit or crit instead of you. So what that means is after you roll your defense dice and the enemy rolls their attack dice, and after you, once you have damage coming onto your ship, you can like pawn that damage off to someone near you.
And that's a 3 agility ship that came with auto thrusters.
Right. So you had a good amount of ability to mitigate incoming dice, and then after that mitigation, you could shunt off the damage that got through to a different ship, and that ship could be something like a Z95 or even a Y-wing that has a lot of health but very low agility. So it has a lot of hit points, but typically, if you rolled attack dice at a Y-wing, most of the dice are going to get through. Like, it's not mitigating any defense dice. But if you have Prince Shizor, you sort of like combine those two aspects. You have the high defensive qualities of your, defensive dice and auto thrusters, and you can sort of meld that with the high hit points of a meteor ship like a Y-wing that has like a lot of. It's a cheap meat bag for you. And
going back to the Minox now. Okay.
Yeah. So you could make I always tried to make squads that featured a very dangerous Prince Shizor that would be a really bad idea for the opponent to ignore, whether because it was so offensively powerful, or because it would play so well in the late game. When there's only like 1 or 2 ships on the table, it would just be really, really hard to deal with if you only had 1 or 2 ships to deal with this one Star Viper.
Now, I will say that Star Vipers came out when turret wings ruled the land.
Right. So they're it was TIE Phantoms, and it came out. The Star Viper was Wave 6, so it came out when the metagame was Dash Rendar was Super Dash, and I believe it was Super Dash days, right? I think so. And
it was Super Dash. It was
Super Dash, Chirnu, Echo, Fat Turrets in general. There's a little bit of swarm action.
A little bit.
Yeah.
That was it. That was all. It was the 3 large turret
Fat
ships.
turrets and Phantoms mainly.
Yeah.
And I think that it was a really you could make some interesting squads with Prince Shizor working on those principles. I don't think they were ever top tier competitive, but they were competitive enough. They were competitive enough.
There was a guy who won a regional in the UK.
Yeah.
Or at least he made it to the top 4. I think.
And that's what I mean. I mean, they weren't like, it wasn't the list, right? That's what I would say. Top tier.
It wasn't meta. It was actually very quiet.
Right.
And I took it to a region. I took Shizor and 5 Z95s, which people nicknamed because it's Prince Shizor, so it's Prince of the New Power Generation.
Right.
And I took it to regionals in Raleigh, and I fought one round with a Phantom, and I lost because I hate Phantoms. And then I won all my other. I won the other. What was it? Was it 4 rounds? Going into 5, I can't remember. But then the last round, it was against a Decimator and a bunch of TIE fighters. And I was like, I got this. I got my Z95s, gonna light that sucker up. And I just had the worst luck. And I couldn't even get the Decimator down the half hole. And that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
My opponent said he almost felt bad for me. And if I had won that, it would have been only one loss. And I would have made it to the top 16. But I didn't. So
yeah. I think I won a small store tournament with my Prince Shizor squad. I think I had a couple of relatively high finishes with it, and I had like a second place finish with like a tournament with like 20 or 30 people. So I that was probably the last squad that I really flew competitively, and it was good enough to actually do damage. It just wasn't that
Yeah, I think it actually was the last I flew competitively too. I took it to a tournament in Asheville where there was a bunch of good players. It's like a small community because Asheville's like a mountain town, and they had a lot of really good players. One guy who won the Atlanta Regional like the year before, and a lot of people kind of openly scoffed at my list, which was kind of rude, but. But they were playing fat turrets. If you know how to beat fat turrets, it's like, oh, I throw it, I got a block. Bink. Oh, the rest of my list lights you up. And like I had a guy, like I'd beaten his buddy, kind of like his protege, and we broke for lunch. And then, we were a little late coming back, meeting them up, and they're like, oh, who won? And like, oh, he did, which pointing to me. They're like, what? Oh my God, what? And then I played the guy who had won the Atlanta Regional, and I beat him. With the same strategy because he's playing fat turret, which, once you understand how to beat it, it's not that hard. And he was flabbergasted. And I finally made it to the finals at the top table, and it was against Brobots. And I'd never played against Brobots before, and Brobots crushed me. So from that point on, I practiced against Brobots, because that was the Brobot faction, that when they were the, quote, only good scum list. And when I went to regional, the first two lists I played were against identical Brobot lists. And I had practiced that was like autopilot. I just kind of whoop, and I just defeated them really with no problem. Once I'd figured out how to defeat Brobots, it was just autopilot because I'd played nothing but Brobots for a couple months. That was also where I realized it gets a little boring when you play repetition. But anyways, all right. So that's you like the Star Viper.
There's one
Excellent.
answer.
That's one answer. We're 30 minutes into it, but so I'm gonna go with J-Bot.
Well, mine's pretty simple. I actually like the Cuirax, however they like to say that. I got the Star Viper when it came, I guess, in the initial set or initial wave of stuff with the Scum and Villainy. But I was never really a huge fan of it. But when the Cuirax or Curaz, however they like to say it, I'll call it Cuirax from this point forward. When that came out, I just liked the look of the ship. It looked to me like a really heavily armed, like E-wing, just like a bit of a stretched out, heavily armed E-wing, and it looked like a plane or like a spaceship. I was like, this is what I would draw if I was a kid and trying to draw a plane with missiles and crap on it. So I love the look of it, and so that's the one that I would definitely want to fly. And it's the one that I've actually been flying in a list here recently. So this change actually, I was kind of like cackling at all the crazy things I can suddenly do with because I was really, and I won't go into crazy detail on the list because it might be a B team down the road, but I had like 2 or 3 points to spare with that ship, and I'm like, oh man, there's so many things I want to do with it. Now that 2 or 3 points is like 5 or 6 points with the new change that we can go into later. So I'm actually really excited to adjust the heck out of my list. I might not have enough modification cards to put on it now with the bonus and points that I'm going to get.
You always borrow from me.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the plan. That's what it is half the time. Is it's all my cards and then like twice as many with gems. So.
Yeah, I do think it looks like a Klingon fighter. But that's not a bad
thing. It does
have
a bird of prey feel to it a little bit, yeah.
But for anybody who doesn't know, Wikipedia, the Scum people who decided they needed something to kind of equal the X-Wing, because X-Wing was the new upcoming ship after destroying the Death Star, and they built the Cuirax. It's a highly customizable ship, the most customizable ship in the galaxy. So apparently everybody tweaked the heck out of it. And built all these different, versions of the Cuirax. And so that kind of actually fits in with what we might talk about later with the new title that came out. But I like the Kirax. There's a couple of people even on the forums who've been running with us, say 5 Kirax fighter list, like the 5 generic cheapest guys out there, because they're only 20 points each, 19 points, I can't remember, and that's a lot of firepower. It can be pretty brutal. They have a 1 hard turn, which used to be the most amazing move in the game. So, yeah,
Still a good move.
it's still a very good move.
It's still a good move, but they don't have the ever necessary 3 hard turn.
Which lost me that.
I cannot tell you how many times I've flown this list. I've been flying this list now for 3 or 4 weeks. I'm like, this is the perfect time for a 3 hard. No.
Yeah, I would just be like turning that dial and like, wait a minute, 3 bang, 3 straight, 3 bang. Wait a minute, K turn. Where's the 3? Wait a minute. I keep just going back and forth. Where is it?
What's funny is I actually was using the wrong dial through part of it, and I'm spinning around, and I was like, wait a minute, where did that 3 hard turn come from? And I spun it around a couple times thinking I must have jumped dimensions or had something weird happen to me. And then I set the dial down and picked it up again, and I was like, oh, that was the wrong one. Okay, that's all it was. And it was one of those where something's not right with this dial, and it was amazing. I think every one of us that has played that ship is like, okay, this was a perfect time for a what? How was that move not on here? Every ship has that.
Yeah, well, I always forget, or I've been or it's like, oh, I wish I could. It'd be the perfect time to do it, and I can't. Dang it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, now there's a fix for that.
Right. So, let's move on to our chief engineer. I'm kind of interested in how his engineerical outlook, what particular ship he wants to take.
Yeah. So here's where I'll disappoint. So to fix that, to really fix that problem you guys were just talking about, they do sell white markers. You can just kind of etch it in on your dial. Problem solved, right?
No, I mean, with the way the dials work these days, I could just borrow a dial from another ship and no one would ever actually know.
Yeah, just trade it with the Protectorate Fang Fighter.
Here you go.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a little bit torn, but I think I can narrow it down to one. Just to kind of play a little bit off of each other. The Star Viper is a ship that's still on my wish I could fly, or I need to fly it. So you remember a couple podcasts ago we talked about, hey, what are the ships in your inventory you haven't flown? That one's on it. So to that extent, there's a desire to fly it. Furthermore, between the 2 ships, I find the Star Viper's maneuver dial to be a little bit more interesting for me. Not having done a whole lot with the S loops, and then potentially making some modifications to throw in a boost capability on top of it, I think that would be kind of fun to fly. The K fighter. Notice how I got around that whole pronunciation.
Kirax.
So K fighter.
So say meerkat, Kirax.
Yeah, I go with the Kirax on my pronunciation, but Kirax. I just in some of the conversations I have with other people, it devolves into how do you pronounce it. So I've settled on neutral ground, the K fighter, and people can't really,
You can't call it that. That's too close to the K wing.
Yeah, that's right.
Might get confused.
That's still good.
So the Kiraz, to me, with it being, I suppose, similar to the X-Wing, I'm going to be more comfortable with it. I have flown this one several times now with some of the missions, not only playtesting for the narrative, but also in the Punisher mission.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of use out of it, so I'm a little bit familiar with it. And with the changes that are coming, I think I'd have a little bit of fun with trying to stack the deck, and some of the combinations and just nifty little things that one might be able to do with the K fighter. So push comes to shove, I think I would want to try and do the Star Viper just because it would be new to me. I get the S loop action, and then just being able to try and build a few things on top of something that I've never played with before. That would be my tiebreaker on which one to go with.
Okay. I will go ahead and answer, and I was kind of on the fence even till right you gave her answer, and I was thinking I'd kind of even things out based on what you said because both of them are pretty cool to me. Because I have 2 Kirax and I want more, and I find myself constantly saying I need another Kirax fighter, and so just to say that again, pronunciation wise, Kir like fear, axe like chop wood with.
Kirax.
Yeah, Kirax.
Kirax.
You are correct.
Cracks.
Cracks.
Kyrax. Kyrax.
Kirax.
Kyrax. I'm pretty sure it's Kyrax.
Like Pyrex.
I'm just gonna call it cracks.
Cracks. So I really want more Kirax fighters, but and I guess I will with that expansion pack if I sell enough plasma. But
that's right.
It's our devious plan now. We got to keep the podcast going. We need 2 weeks between shows now, so Jim can recover from giving all the plasma.
Yeah, what's the frequency at which you can give plasma? Can you really?
It's
twice a
wait
week.
so many days? Oh, twice a week.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good. 2 times is like $50 to kind of get you hooked.
Yeah, it's like $50 to $60 a week.
But well, I think it's like the very first time you do it, maybe the first 2 times they give you $50, and then they drop down the price. But I think once or twice I just might because I saw a picture. I think this Thursday is when the Sea Rock is actually for sale in the store, and someone said they got theirs from a Amazon shipper like too early, and so I saw pictures of people with a Sea Rock cruiser. So I think the only way I'm going to get
he's going to come in a little lightheaded on Thursday. Is what I'm saying.
Yes.
You need to be aggressive in your negotiations because it is missing the blue line, so it should be discounted, right?
It's true. I mean,
yeah, that's so funny. All right, so my official answer, I think I'll give the Star Viper, because it's funny because, well, we can get to it later. But I will say I like Shizor. I had a lot of fun with Shizor and doing Shizor. I'm kind of tempted to try Shizor again. And I've never really tried Guri. And a lot of people lately have been using Guri to try to make Guri work. And so that, with some of the latest changes, I think Guri would be a lot of fun to try. But I also think with some of the titles out, that even some of the generics that a few people have really tried to use for the Star Viper could be a lot more viable. I mean, it's got a pretty good dial. It's got, boost, barrel roll. It's got 3 evade. It's got 1 shield. So it's very similar to the Fang Fighter, but it's not a Fang Fighter. So I think the Star Viper, I've just all these different tiers of Star Vipers to actually try that I'm pretty excited about. So that should be fun. Excellent. And I even made I've got a Star Viper with the wings folded back because I actually snapped one of the wings like an idiot one time. So I went ahead and modded the whole thing to make the wings fold back. But yeah. Excellent. So we got a whole bit of news, a bit of the Sea Rock in there. By the time people listen to this, they'll go, "Oh yeah, it's old news. Yeah, it's out. I got it. Whatever." But throw it all out there, and we can probably jump into the news because overall, we're probably going to ramble for a really long time and be more than an hour.
Let's do it.
All right. So there was a new article that came out last week. For X-Wing, Fearless and Inventive, announcing the Guns for Hire expansion pack for X-Wing, with a quote, "This bounty hunter is my kind of scum, fearless and inventive." Jabba the Hutt. Dun dun dun. So, who wants to talk about what's actually in this expansion pack? An Aces pack, so to speak, for scum.
I think J-Bot does.
What? I never know what's in these things. Sure, I can take a stab at it. Why not?
Just give us an overview from your perspective of what
I can take a stab at it. There are these 2 ships that we probably haven't mentioned before. There's the Krax Fighter and the Star Viper.
Woohoo!
So, but they have fancy new paint jobs.
Yay!
Which actually like the clean white of the Krax Fighter, which I'm not going to do just to bug Jim. But the Star Viper is a little butterfly-ish, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I like the cracks, the way it looks. And of course, it comes with an array of pilot cards, of which we can see a couple. And if you're working on your Zapruder film, you can probably make out a few of them. Based off some of the notes I have come across on the internet, there are people out there with like, this one says I space question mark dot. It's like, really? Can you not just wait a couple weeks to see what that card actually says? But
yeah, I'm more in the wait camp. I'll admit
right,
that.
yeah, okay. But yeah, so it's got obviously 2 of the ships, a copy of each of the ships, and what looks like 4 pilots apiece, bunch of upgrade cards. We're leaning very close to my my rant YouTube video about more and more conditions are coming out with every set. This one looks like it comes out with 3, one of which is duplicated, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I guess I could jump ahead, but I think the big news is obviously the titles that are coming in this, which to me feel like fixes. Not being an expert in this thing, they feel like
these are definitely fixes. Yes.
Yeah, they're fixes.
Ships. And at this point, I'm tired of like complaining about 0 point upgrades, especially since it's on a ship that I actually like. So
what about negative point upgrades?
Man,
do you still have any juice left for them?
No, don't care anymore.
Because these are essentially both negative point upgrades.
Oh yeah, they're definitely both when you get down to what they actually do. But yeah, there's no use fighting it anymore. But these 2 ships did need help. I mean, when you boil it down, they did kind of need some help. I don't know if the Scum faction needed help, based on everything I have heard recently from people who have played in tournaments. But
although
in general, I think these ships, these cards were already in the pipeline, so it was just more a matter of we were going to get these anyway.
I think that the feeling that the Scum faction is overpowered is probably justified, and that's driven by one particular ship. I can't quite remember its name. Jim, do you remember what ship people are upset about?
Yes, it's the quad jumper.
Yeah, I think it's the quad something jumper. It's probably the quad jumper. I don't really pay that much attention. But okay, so the quad jumper. I don't know.
Pretty much, for anyone who doesn't know, Worlds came out, and like the majority of people who made it to the top 16 and who just went to Worlds in general played Scum, and so there was 1 Imperial player, 3 Rebel players, and the other 12 were playing Scum. I think the majority of them, maybe 1 or 2, did not have a Jump Master in their list, and I think all of them had a Tawny Mind Link in their list. Maybe 1 didn't have a Tawny Mind.
Yeah. So,
but overall,
it was dangerously similar to the store championship we had here recently in our area as well, from what I hear.
So Jump Masters and a Tawny Mind Link seems to be a fairly toxic combination, and is very, very powerful, and is probably, you could say, overpowered. I guess you could say that. I would, from looking at my tea leaves here, I just had a nice cup of tea. Looking at my tea leaves, I have a feeling that something bad is going to happen to one of those 2 elements. Either the
okay,
I think something bad's going to happen to one of the elements in this pack that we're about to discuss tonight.
I'm having a premonition. I'm having a premonition here.
It might be the fastest, like Magic the Gathering level, like rollback of a card that you have ever seen in this game.
I've talked about this on Minoc, and I've been going kind of strong in the forums about this because
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I know I'm not usually on there, but basically, FFG has been working overtime to try to rebalance the game with all these calls of like X-Wing 2.0 is required, etc. First, they brought out all these different things that can help fight against the push limit arc dodger, basically Center Fell and company. That Cuban boy, you keep pinging me. Cuban boy, stop it! I'm trying to record the podcast. All right,
you got to mute that tab. Mute that tab.
Yeah. So basically, they went ahead and started working on push limit arc dodgers and all these little things. Not one thing that killed Sinterfell, but little things. And then they did things boosting the TIE Defender and the TIE Bomber and guidance chips, long range scanners, etc. And they had what the great nerfing happen and a few FAQs, and they had all these different things where basically at this point people are saying, oh, the Imperial has nothing competitive. The Imperial faction's lost. It's going to be they can't compete. And then the rebels, they have to have bigs or else nothing's they can't do anything. It's all about scum. Scum's the only ship that can happen. The only faction, and it's really just Jumpmaster, a tiny mind link, then I'll throw in their bigs and possibly TLT. But I swear that FFG has been fixing things, modifying the game, tweaking things here, and it's like, oh, that's it right now. It's horrible. The great nerfing has been a total mistake, and everything's terrible. When really you just look at it, it's just a few things that are still kind of like a little more powerful than everything else in the game. And to me, I think they're going to be doing another nerfing, the great nerfing part 2, the nerfing, but. It's going to basically sand down the power spikes, which is somebody on the forums, I wish I remember who it was, who said that basically tweak the Jumpmaster make it somehow more expensive or something, do something to a tiny mind link, and basically probably something to bigs. If once they do that, and possibly TLT, I think if you look at the game, there's going to be a lot more of a balance and a power level within the game is going to be...
They're looking for something to bring balance to the game. There was a prophecy.
Of course. Yeah.
It was foretold that there's one card out there that will bring the whole time. Will bring balance to the game. I'm sure nothing bad will happen once that card is brought out.
You know how this works though. Balance actually means like just destroy everything, so there is no playing field left.
Well, what I think is like we're at the cusp of actually having really good competitive X-Wing even, because when people are saying, "Oh, there's nothing competitive in Imperial," that means they did a good job and everything's balanced. That's the way I see it.
Or just everything else is like so overly powerful that you can't tell how weak it is, relative to everything else. But I don't know. I think when you get into balancing of games, this goes deep into, I guess, my history of game systems and how they attempt to balance and that sort of stuff. Like, you get to a point where it's almost impossible, where this kind of a house of cards, and you're like, okay, there's too many small little tweaks that we're making, and something's going to bring the whole house down. Like, it's going to be, oh, we can't fix this without basically tearing the whole thing up and starting over again. So I have a feeling that with the stuff that's coming out, if they really are concerned, then we are closer to a 2.0 than we have ever been, because that's really the only way to fix these sorts of things is a wholesale kind of rewrite of a lot of cards, which would fix a lot of things, but it might make some people mad in the offing. But just this is aside. I know that's not what we're here to discuss tonight, but like FFG does have a history of doing this sort of thing. When they come out with a second edition of the game,
they've rebooted other games.
Yeah, they reboot games, and it's not as painful as people think, because if you've never played the old game and you buy the new edition, everything's hunky-dory. If you've played the old game and you got a whole bunch of stuff, they tend to give you a conversion kit of some form or fashion that's like, oh, look, it's $20 and it has every pilot card, every blah, blah, blah that we've ever produced, but rewritten and balanced for the new game, for the new edition. And it's like, hey, look, guys, you don't have to rebuy everything if they ever come out with a second edition, because more than likely they'll put out a similar thing. Hey, look. Yeah. And in some cases, they actually include it in the base set. Like, oh, look, a second edition base set and a conversion kit for everything for the first edition. So
I'd say it's possible for them to do. I mean, and it's even something that they could do. They could sell that conversion kit at a loss, because
absolutely,
and just look at it as a investment in their game. And if you get down to it, there's a lot of space in terms of like cardboard real estate in a lot of these. Like, if you didn't put your shield tokens, your focus tokens, your stress tokens, your ID chits, and like the critical hit token that no one ever uses, there's actually quite a bit of real estate on cardboard in a typical pack that is kind of wasted because everyone has those tokens in duplicate.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, and we've gone way afield, but to me, I've always been curious why and I get the understanding, hey, it's a new ship, it's got a one shield, you need to include one shield token with it. For the people who, I guess they assume, have never bought any other ship that's ever existed, because to me it's like, hey, look, it's the base game. If we put 10 shields and 10 blah, blah, blah of all this stuff in there in the base game, you don't have to put any of that crap in any of the expansions because you have to make the assumption that, and hey, in order to play this game, you need the rulers, which means you probably bought the base game, which means you got all the tokens that you need to play it going forward. So
yeah,
that would leave room in all those for all sorts of other shenanigans like conditions, which probably see more of.
Yeah. In any case, what else is in this news article?
Oh yeah. Well, back to what we were doing.
Do we even get to one card?
No, we didn't.
We did not get to a single card.
It really comes down to where would you guys like to start on the cards? Because they only really gave us 2 big ones. I mean, other than a pilot card, they really only gave us 2.
They gave us
major
2 titles and a pilot.
Yeah,
right.
I think we should start with the title that most people on the forums blew up about.
The Kyrax title?
Kyrax, yes.
Yeah. So Kyrax. Yeah.
So Biff.
Yes.
You tell us the Kyrax title card.
Yeah, I think I want to pronounce this Vaxai. Is that even close?
Who knows?
Anything that piss Phil off.
I mean,
as long as it annoys Phil.
I don't know what's the proper pronunciation for this one, Jim.
Yeah,
Vaxai.
The K is silent, actually. It's Versailles.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Versailles.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Treaty of Versailles?
It's Versailles.
Yeah, basically.
Versailles.
All right, got it. Versailles it is.
So they're giving you 2 copies of Versailles in the little expansion box. It is for the K fighter only, and we've already mentioned that it is in fact the title. It costs 0 points for this title, but the card
0
reads
points?
in...
That's unbelievable. Why do they keep giving us... I'm sorry. Go on.
Jim, it's okay. They have to do this sort of thing in order to sell new ships.
Oh, it's just stupid. They just should be giving out 0 points. Why even bother making this bigger than the ship to begin with?
Calm down, Jim. Calm down. It's okay. It'll be okay.
Okay, go on.
And I do have to compliment them on the graphics for this card because I think it is very, very thematic. You know, with what's about to happen with the reading of the card, I just think it's really cool to have that graphic in there. I think it's pretty slick. So this new title card reads: the squad point cost of each of your equipped upgrades is reduced by 1 to a minimum of 0. So already we're knocking off points if you so choose to equip this ship with anything. You're already getting a savings. So the more you drop on, the more you save. Yeah.
The more you spend, the more you save.
Yep. And then finally, the big kicker on top of all of this is you may equip up to 3 different modification upgrades.
Whoa!
So stack them deep. It's awesome.
I'm actually surprised this is the first time we've seen a ship, I guess, other than the that fancy Imperial one that lets you have more than 1 modification.
Royal Guard title.
That's the one. Okay. It surprises me because it feels like, I mean, shouldn't all ships be able to have a couple of extra, little whirly gigs on them? But I guess it's not that sci-fi.
And this fits back into the fluff saying that this is the most customizable ship in the galaxy. The Kyrax fighter.
Yeah, and I can certainly understand why there's a lot of, I don't know if this excitement. What did you see on the forums, Jim? Was it excitement? Was it anger? Was it something I would be proud of in the way of frustration and annoyance?
I will say that there were a few people that didn't like it because they felt it cheapened the Royal Guard title. In fact, the most bombastic comment, I feel like I just need to find like the worst comment and talk about it every time one of these news articles comes out.
Yeah, we need a new segment for you that's just like, this is the state of the forums.
It
like
came
one
from
of those
the forums.
Yeah. We're live on location.
Oh my God!
We're live on location in the forums where a flame war has erupted between blah 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 and blah, and just keep going that way. Just the pure news cycle.
It's got to be it's got to be like a top 10 list, because Jim's got to have a list
Yeah,
this.
yes.
You just want to push lists.
but no, it could be good. Yeah, a flame war erupted earlier today when the news from FFG was released. Let's go live to Jim to see what the remnants are left on the forums. How many people, Jim, have quit the game so far?
Well, one person said basically, I might as well burn my Royal Guard title because it is utter crap when compared to this card, which is completely absurd because one, let's just say you take the two ships, the TIE Interceptor and the Karax Fighter, without any titles and compare them. If you had the same amount of points for either ship of any points level, which ship would you rather take? I'm thinking most people would rather go with the TIE Interceptor. But then let's say you take the Royal Guard title and then you take the new Karax title and you combine and you look for whichever ship get the same points level, whatever ship you want, say X many points, 28 points, I don't know. And then you're 32 points, let's say. Then you look at those two ships, which ship would you still rather take in your list? And the TIE Interceptor wins that most of the time. I mean, the TIE Interceptor is a fantastic ship, and with the Royal Guard title, it can take, two modifications. The Karax Fighter has been a bit lacking, and this title allows some ships to build something interesting and make up for some of the inherent weaknesses in the title. So overall, I do not think that this, and most people would agree in the forums, but there's a few outspoken fools. Basically, this title brings the power level of the Karax up to what other ships should be, but it does not allow you to build anything that's insanely overpowered or broken.
I don't know. This is the card I was talking about. I could see having the magic level. Oh god! Oops, we didn't realize what we unleashed. Sort of reaction from FFG.
Numerous people who said that it could potentially cause issues down the line with new modifications that come out, and every new modification's got to have this particular title in mind. But
yeah, it's not just that for me. To me, it feels like it's missing the word modification in it. Like your modifications can cost one less.
Oh, that's yeah.
See
So
what I'm saying?
Anybody who didn't notice, basically, all your upgrades cost 1 point less. So you can take three modifications on this, but all your upgrades cost 1 point less.
Yeah. So your pilot talent, your missile, your illicit, all get that discount.
Yep.
Which is like frightening. And
yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna jump because I made a joke before the show about this. I'm gonna jump to the I guess the 80s action flick character that's in the list here, the Mr. Cobra himself. I can actually find it on my stupid machine here. He, for like 0 points basically, you can throw on. Oh look, I'm gonna make him a pilot skill 11. With the veteran instincts. Oh, good. Look, he's shooting first above almost everybody, unless they use like a specific pilot to use their pilot ability to make someone a 12 or to make him a 0. Like and that's for 0 points and just throwing the title on there and doing nothing else. It's like, hey, look, that's all I've done, and I haven't made this guy cost any more. But then it's like, oh, look, I can throw scum upgrades on it or illicit upgrades on him for free, like one, but I can throw one on there for free as well. Like that's why I feel like I could see this card being the first one that they immediately come out and say, "Oh, that was a complete misprint. That was a complete misprint. It should just say modification upgrades are cheaper," because to me it feels like it opens way too many doors. At least for 0 point cost, it feels like it opens way too many doors.
And I'll say any of those 1 point upgrades are nothing really crazy anyways, and that the Karax Fighter kind of has some lacking, that getting those for free kind of actually bumps up, the Karax to the standard power level. At least more, it'll bump it higher up.
To a degree, it does. Yeah, it just, like I said, it feels like there's a lot of things you can do without changing the price of the ship at all, and the ability to have multiple modifications that can interact with one another is the part that to me seems frightening. I think it's cool, and it definitely is interesting for people who want to fly that ship. But people who don't want to fly it, I can see being a little upset with how crazy it could suddenly become.
Right. So one of the things I found out about, I think about with this particular title is, because I've been playing with a lot of generics, and I have used a lot of, I've wanted to use more generics of this particular ship in lists with, say, Epic or the Punisher mission or whatnot. This title doesn't do a lot for very cheap generics. Like if you don't have an EPT, you can't use any of the the little cheap EPTs to get on. And for elicits, there's really how many 1-point elicits are there? There's Black Market Slicer Tool and inertial dampeners. And like that's it for 1-point EPTs. Or for elicits. And then the modifications, there's not too many modifications that you can really use.
I don't know.
For
you can put long-range scanners and guidance chips on the ship.
You can't put long-range scanners on it because it doesn't have a missile and a torpedo slot.
Oh, okay. I got to read the whole thing. That's what you're doing.
Right. So there's not too many you can actually do. Like you could probably do a couple. Like you can do one of the things that's interesting is munitions failsafe and guidance chips. So you can fire something.
Oh, that's right. I was joking about that one the other day.
If you still miss, you can still get that missile back, and that's pretty nice.
Yeah. It's the rebirth of the munitions failsafe.
I know. It's the munitions failsafe fix. That's what this title is.
Right. That's what it's all about. It's just to fix that one card.
And I find I use it a lot on these various builds I've been building. But a lot of the times with these cheap generics, it doesn't really do a lot for the cheap generics. Like the Star Viper one does, we'll get into later, but this particular one does not do much for the Pilot Skill 1 El Cheapo guy. Not really, what I've found. But it does do it for the more expensive versions. So you want to go with the guys with the EPTs, and it's like Phil said, the more you spend, the more you save. But that can also be a bit of a trap that if you try to load it down with too much crap and it ends up dying on the first salvo, well, you might have loaded a little more than you would have just because of the discount savings.
Yeah, you have to be worried about the durability of these ships in any case. Even Dallenbane Cobra is not particularly resilient, just by himself.
No, they have the same stuff as a Hawk. The same stats except for their primary attack as a Hawk. So.
Yep. And you can use the pulsed ray shielding. Mm-hmm. It's 2 points, but the title is only 1, where you can gain a shield back.
Man, the deals.
Yeah.
The deals.
So that costs a point though. That's at 1 point. So,
If only there was a shady black market dealer who we could use to sell these things. Perhaps one that's been heard in a recent audio drama.
Right. So Biff, what are your thoughts on this particular title? You've been kind of quiet.
And I just it's just kind of, I don't know, blows me away. The whole 3 modifications onto a platform, and quite frankly, any platform, whatever the reason, just to me is setting yourself up for problems downstream. And then to tack on top of that, the notion of being able to get, whether it be the modifications or the upgrades for reduced point cost, adds to that complexity. A lot of the concerns that are out in the community, competitive and even maybe to some extent casual, about how there's not much balance, to me all just goes back to there's more than 4 cards out there that people can add to their ships, and however you want to grade any given card on what its point cost is, the moment you start taking 1 or more cards and getting combo effects, the whole notion of just adding the points up falls completely off to the wayside, because there's a multiplying effect of some degree that is based on how effective 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, when they're brought together, lay out. So I don't. I suppose maybe I'm going back to a little bit of the 2.0 conversation, but I just to let loose something like this, even though it might be maybe, I don't want to say great, but maybe it's a good thing now for a particular platform. 2, 3, 4 waves from now, to me, this is just going to be something that's going to be problematic. So I'm kind of glad I'm not doing the competitive thing, because I don't know how I would kind of start wrapping my head around, especially if I was not playing the Scum faction on this.
Now, one thing I have noticed is that you can actually get a hull upgrade for only 2 points on this ship. So you can bump up to a 5-hull 1 shield.
Mm-hmm.
Which, for 2 points, that's pretty darn good. All right. So, Phil, what are your thoughts overall?
Overall, I think I like it. I think that it is thematic. I think that it is a fairly powerful boost to a ship that really needed it. I don't know if it's worth predicting now whether we'll regret this down the road. Time will tell. There's no, anything could be coming down the pipe, and maybe it breaks this, or maybe it doesn't, or maybe it's broken right now. Oh my God. A lot of the cards that have been classified as, game breaking were often panned in the first time that they were shown.
Yeah.
And a lot of the cards that people thought were going to destroy the game fizzled out. Why are you guys even listening to us? Just flip a coin. No. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. I think it's gonna get people excited about the ship again. So I like that. I don't really have like a specific build in mind for this, but
I don't think it's gonna be broken. I think maybe down the road maybe, but I think overall it might allow you to use some heavy hitters. You want to pour the points into it. You might be able to get some kind of nifty little effects for the cheaper, mid-range by only tacking on either 0-point upgrade or, just 1 or 2 points per upgrade. You can do some neat things with them. But I think overall, it'll be pretty fun. I like the overall.
One thing that I would like to throw out to you guys, because I only really thought of the question, but I didn't really go that much farther into this myself. But and you guys are a little bit more steeped in squad building, and you've been around a lot more as far as years and engagement on this thing. But what about essentially taking this card and applying it to the T65? How do you think that would play out on the T65?
We have to basically say Biggs. Biggs will have to be addressed before we do anything T65. And starting off that, let's just say yes, they're going to do something to Biggs. Biggs will be addressed and nerfed or something.
If you gave this to T65 and didn't do anything about Biggs, it would be a disaster. I think that would be game breaking on day one.
Yeah, no freaking kidding. Yeah. I'm going to put stealth device, hull upgrade, and a shield upgrade on them.
No, it'd be stealth device, engine upgrade, auto thrusters.
Or that too.
I mean, there's a ton of disgusting things you could do with it, and on top of all that stuff, integrated astromech and a regen droid. Jeez.
yeah, Biggs will be frightening. But yeah, if you took that out of the game, then you have the Rebels are the only faction that don't have a ship that has a multiple modification ability, right? Or is there one out there I'm missing? And the A-Wing has the 2 EPT ability with the title, but I could see that as a fix for the T65 as long as you address Biggs, even if it was only 2.
I would want something different for the T65, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely. I wouldn't want to see this on the T65. Even if you dealt with Biggs beforehand, even if like Biggs may not equip this card was printed on it, and that was like the only difference. I still wouldn't want to see this, you know.
Awesome.
No
This can be
Biggs.
used on all T65 X-Wings, except Biggs. Real big.
It's like it's a like oxygen mask. Pilots with a mustache may not equip this card.
That would be awesome.
Oh, that'd be funny. All right, so do we want to go on to the named guy, the named Curex fighter?
Sure.
Yes.
So J-Bot, you want to read this guy? Do you have it up in front of you?
Yeah, give me just a second. Sorry.
And you got to read his name dramatically.
I was dreaming up all of my crazy builds for my list. Oh, he doesn't have a 80s action name.
Nobody's got a cool.
No, it's
Well,
it's not a
sorta
movie
does.
name, but this is like a name from a character from an 80s movie.
He does kind of have that, that Victor
Wasn't he in
Hel.
one of those Iron Eagle movies?
Yes, yeah. That's we actually have a guy I work with whose name is Steele. I think I mentioned that where we goof around with his name all the time. That's his last name, Steele. And so, I'm always doing that every time he wanders by. It's like, coming this summer, Chad Steele is Steel Mad. That's just stupid stuff. Steel Mad 2, Steel Matter. That sort of thing. And they're all people shaking their heads. You're insane. I said, well, I mean, but this name feels like that. You're right. It's got that, Victor Hel. He's gone through hell, and now he's back. Victor
Right.
Hel.
Or it's like trying to think of what you could say. It's like
Yes, yeah. The mob killed his family, and now he's gonna put them through hell.
He's gonna give
Victor
them
Hel
hell.
starts this summer in Hell's Wrath. This ridiculous
Hell's Wrath
stuff.
2. Give them hell.
Yeah.
thought it couldn't get worse. You've reached a new level of hell.
That's right.
Victor Hel.
7th level of hell.
Yeah, this summer. The thrilling
Victor Hel
conclusion.
7th level of hell.
That's right. Welcome to hell. Yeah, so he's a pilot skill 7. Oddly 25 points, which is the same price as Graz the Hunter, I believe is how you say that guy's name. And his pilot ability is, after defending, if you did not roll exactly 2 defense dice, the attacker receives 1 stress token, which is an interesting ability.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
You pretty much have to give him something to adjust that to really take advantage of it.
Man, if only he could take vectored thrusters.
If only he could put like a stealth device and something else on there, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So also,
go ahead.
he has an EPT slot.
Yes, like I said, it's a little odd to me because Graz is also 25 points, but does not have an EPT slot, and he's a pilot skill 5, I think. And so it's like, wait a minute, the guy exists already. He's the same price, but this guy's 2 PS higher and has an EPT on him.
Well, Graz is
seems a
PS6.
little, like, okay, so 6 versus 7, but it's still, like it seems a little hinky,
This is where they go, crap, we messed up with Graz, so
right, yeah, we got to fix Graz. How do we fix Graz?
No,
but
they
Graz
don't
does
fix
have
Graz.
Graz does have a slightly more usable without adding cards to him pilot ability though, so that is in his favor.
So, what do you think of the guy?
I think it's interesting. I mean, a lot of builds come to mind because I'm actually using Graz in my list, and it's the only reason I remembered all that stuff about him. This one's the same price, but the EPT slot offers me a lot more freedom, especially with the new title, than Graz does. I know that sounds crazy, but it's like for the same price, I now have more options I can play with. And my list wasn't specifically taking advantage of Graz's pilot ability. It was more the ship and some of the other things it could do. So for me, this one actually would probably work better. So I'm interested in this ship. I actually like this pilot ability because it actually fits into what I was working on already with very little modification at all. So.
You mean more modifications?
Well, no, I don't have to
the
change
title.
anything. It looks exactly the same. I just suddenly get more points.
Right. Well, for more modification slots. So.
Right. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. Jason was, shaking his head. Punisher Jason was shaking his head at the shop this past week because I kept listing all the things I could suddenly add to my already devastatingly powerful, soon-to-be tournament level list.
Oh, we got to watch out. You might be kicked off the show for tournament level.
Well, I mean, if I start winning, it just proves everybody else is horrible at this game.
All right. So, what about you, Phil? What are your thoughts on Victor Hel?
I think that people are if people try to use him, they're gonna try hard to make his ability work, and that I don't think that is the right approach to this guy. I think that so you could do things like put stealth device on him, and I guess that's not so bad because it's a 2-point stealth device. But stealth device isn't that great, especially if you're starting at agility 2. Because it's not that hard to punch through 3 agility dice and get like 1 hit through, right? So
I can see on that one turn you can take glitter stim, and that one turn that you're basically
when you need it. But even then, glitter stim it's not a guarantee. And that's also that's more points,
Yeah, but it's only one more point.
One
and it's basically if you're going to get shot at, you've got the stealth device. You're going to be rolling 3 dice or 4 at range 3. You can at least pop that glitter stim that round because you want to actually possibly even not lose that stealth device and stay alive. But yeah.
Yeah, I just think that you should let it happen. If you get shot at range 3, this ability is gonna trigger. Just be happy with that. Put upgrades on this guy to make him do something more proactive.
Okay, I talked about this on Minoc, but I want to throw out because I ask everybody to kind of make a build for one of these new ships if we can get to it. But I want to talk about my one build for Victor Hel. So I want for him, of course, to go with that guy, the new title, with vectored thrusters for barrel roll to see if he can try to control the range. Fearlessness. So if he's in range 1, he gets the extra attack die, right? Advanced homing missile. Not homing missile, advanced homing missile. That's the one that you can only fire at range 2. It's 3 red dice, and if it hits, it does a crit through shields and everything. And to help that, guidance chips and munitions failsafe for free. And glitter stim. So he's 29 points for all that. 29 points is pretty neat. But basically, if he's at range 3, you're taking a stress if you're shooting at him. If he's range 2, he's firing that homing missile. And if you're range 1, he's getting that extra attack. And it's not so much the idea of, I'm going to maximize my get in uber optimal setting and waste you with 12 dice. But it's the idea of, no matter what range he's at, he's going to have a benefit.
Yeah, that's cool.
I kind of like that. 29 points, not that bad.
No.
All right. So, Biff, what do you think?
So when this card came up, and granted I'm kind of working real time a little bit, but the first thing that popped into my head, and you're probably going to love this, Jim, is Expose. The action that's going to take away one of your agility, but it's going to give you the +1 for the attack.
It was mentioned in the article, actually, I think.
Oh, it was?
Mm-hmm.
Was it? I'm pretty sure it was.
Okay. Well,
then do you not read? That's my job,
horrible.
not to read stuff.
So did they lay it up with like experimental interface then?
Here, let me see. Let me go into it. You can even go to the opposite route and lower Victor Hel's agility with Expose. While this makes it likely that he'll lose his shields, the title reduces the cost of outfitting a ship with the pulse ray shield and can get them active once more. Plus, it allows you to add other modifications as well, perhaps in experimental interface to gain extra actions or vectored thrusters.
Yeah, so what I was cobbling together was the experimental interface, the expose, and then trying to play with that the ray shield to try to get back the shield that you might be losing as a result of all of that. So
you're not dead.
Apparently, I'm not that original. Once again.
No, but it's not a bad idea. I have to admit that.
Well,
is
it not a bad idea to use expose?
Okay, let me just say I should rephrase that. I have tried to use expose many times to try to see if it make it work, because I see something that just is supposed to be terrible and I want to make it work.
Yeah,
it's just kind of like how I am.
I get you.
And expose is a bad card. Like,
correct.
I have tried many ways to try to make expose work. And
is
I
expose
just don't...
4 points?
Yes.
4 points, and it takes an action. If it maybe didn't take an action, or it was fewer points and took the action, it'd be worth about 4 points and takes the action, kills it.
You know what?
So,
I would maybe take expose if it was 0 points. That's
I
mean, that's how bad it is, guys. I mean, I'm serious.
So
what I want to
think about this though.
But wait,
think about with the title.
I've thought about it.
With the title. So I mean,
it'd be 3 points. It's still so. Here's though. I have to say though, that idea of expose with Victor, it may be experimental interface, which means you can still then get your dice modification to make it worthwhile. That puts it into the least worst expose idea. So that's what I mean by it being not bad.
Right. Relatively good expose combo.
It is the best exposed combo I have heard of.
Yeah.
Which is not saying much, but
no.
Yeah, so it still may be a totally stinky arrangement, but when I start adding up all the savings, if you really take advantage of the title card, you may, for all practical purposes, end up with an expose that's free.
Well, kind of, I guess, if you are pretending that that the other ones are at the same point. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's voodoo math.
It is.
Fuzzy math, yeah.
But I mean, and again, I'm not trying to advocate that it's a great idea, but it's just trying to go to, you want, if expose wasn't an action, well, experimental interface, and then if it was 0 points, well, here's a way of looking at it as it being 0 points. That's all.
Yeah, but it's hard to justify it's really 0 points when really it's just not counting the discounts on the other cards.
Yeah, and that's where you get into the whole fuzzy math thing. I mean, it's just...
It's like Wookiee math. That's beyond fuzzy. That's like hairy. That's like long hair.
Fuzzy
math.
And it smells funny.
Yeah.
Just to lay out why expose is bad. Increasing your attack by 1 is nice, but even if you are rolling just 2 attack dice, say you have a 2 attack dice ship, right? And you're thinking about giving expose. If you have that ship and it has expose, and you've lined up an attack and you're deciding what action to take, it's statistically a better move to take it's better or exactly the same to just take a focus action instead of using your expose action, because
if you could do
you
a
gain
dual
on
action,
because
if you can do
if a dual action, then I'd rather do target lock focus, and save and not spend 3 points and lower my agility. It's just so bad. It's so. I mean, it's a fun idea. If it was like negative points, maybe I'd think about it. I don't even know then, because it's just never a good idea. It's never a good idea.
With Jemmer Sojan, who when it gets within range 1 gains an agility point with expose, and Jan Ors to boost the attack, and I think there's something else to give another action to Jemmer.
Yeah,
And
but it's
so
like
I think
it's
at one
better
point
just
I
to
got
give him like Predator.
I got like 4 die attack
Yeah.
with a modification on a TIE interceptor, and I almost one-shotted it, but the guy actually put a whole upgrade in that TIE interceptor. And that, ruined the moment, but I almost one-shotted the TIE interceptor with that weird exposed Jan Ors combo and another action. But it took a hell of a lot to get there and was not worth it. I'm telling you, I've really tried to make exposed work. I've thought of really weird things, but
there was a decent exposed decimator combo out there too. Because decimators are agility 0, so they, you can't go below agility 0. So expose doesn't reduce their agility, so it's not as bad on them. But even then, it was rough.
I like my Victor Hel. No matter what range, he's happy. I mean, it's a stupid bad, not.
Sure.
It's a B team. Sure. It's a B team. Yeah.
Okay.
So there is one bright, shiny thing that's popped out of this conversation is I have added an expose fix to our Patreon ideas.
No, there is no fix.
Make it a negative cost.
Negative cost.
You
rewrite the whole card.
One other EBT.
You know what? If it didn't take an action, and it was a lower cost, yeah, I would consider it. Especially if it didn't take an action.
It was a permanent thing that you were always +1 attack,
exposed.
-1 green. Yeah.
Well, what if it worked like that one pilot that if you have no focus evade tokens, you get the +1?
Yeah.
Isn't there a TIE fighter pilot that does that or somebody?
Or maybe this would be good to remake as a dual-sided card. So you have one side that's exposed, and the other side is like covered up. I don't know. It's got like a picture of like one of those like flashers from the 90s, the trench coat.
Yeah. Trench coat and streaker.
Hey, you now have the card art. Just get to work on it. So one side is exposed, the other side is trench coated.
Yeah. There you go.
Covered. Yeah.
Get on an FFG.
All right. So, do we want to move on to the second title?
Yes, please.
Yeah. All right. So, how about you, J-Bot? You want to talk about it?
Oh, you're throwing me under the bus again. Yeah. So this is the title for the Star Viper. It's the Star Viper Mark II, and obviously for Star Viper only. You may equip up to 2 different title upgrades. When performing a barrel roll action, you must use the 1 bank left or right template instead of the 1 forward, the 1 straight template. And it comes in at a -3 point cost. So it lowers the cost of your ship by 3 points, but forces you, when barrel rolling, to use the 1 banks instead. And you can still stick whatever the other Star Viper title was onto it.
Virago.
There you go. So you can still stick that on there. So it doesn't really take the title slot up, even though it is a title, because it gives it back to you.
So it's a fix. I'm sorry. Go on.
Certainly feels like a fix.
Yeah. So that can any of the ships take the Virago title, or is there some limitation on the Virago title?
Yes, it's a limited, unique title. So any of the Star Vipers can take it, but there's only one Virago. And what that title does, it gives you the system slot and the illicit slot. And I've heard numerous people on the forums say, well, the Star Viper really wants a system slot. And so if you can't have the system slot, it's not you taking the Star Viper ever, which is not true, but yes. So you can have one Virago, and the rest of them are copies. The idea was that Shizor he designed a fighter that was the penultimate fighter, which was his Virago, and then they made a El Cheapo version and tried to mass produce it and sell it, so that the Virago is the super cool version, and then the other non-titled Star Vipers are the mass-produced models.
I'll point out that you can't actually equip Virago if your pilot skill is 3 or lower. So
true, yeah. So I guess not everybody can take it, but
So does that eliminate like one ship? Or
that eliminates
two?
the two generics that were in the original
I
pack.
forgot the second generic was you can see there actually is more generics.
We're gonna get Pilot Skill 5 generic in this.
It looks like every Star Viper card in this one is above a 3 from my eyeball look here. So,
so there's two PS5 generics that we don't know about. Black Sun something. And then there's a PS4 one that we don't know about, and a PS6 one that I can't read the name, but we don't know its special ability at all.
Okay.
But so it's -3 points, and so I will say overall, you take the PS1 guy, and you give him this title, it's -3 points. Or you take the PS3 guy, boom, -3 points. It is a point reduction on a ship that everyone will compare it to the Protectorate Fangfighter because they're very similar ships. Because before the PS1 was at 25 points, while the Fangfighter was at what, 20 points, 21 points. Hang on, I gotta pull it up. Protectorate, I
don't know that I would consider them that similar, but
let's see. Here's the thing. They both have 4 hull, but the Star Viper has 1 shield. They both have 3 attack die, barrel roll, and boost. Let's see. Their dials are different. So the Fangfighter has more of the every range 2 move is green, which for the people who love basically push the limit, there's those people that say, well, if it's got a 2 green hard turn, it's a good dial. Otherwise, it's a shit dial, or it's a bad dial.
Well, I mean, it is. A green turn is really very useful. I mean, they're not wrong. They're not wrong that they're not wrong. They're not
because it doesn't have a 2 green turn.
Yeah, I would say
ridiculous.
that the lack of a green turn on this style is very limiting in what you can effectively run with this because because specifically push the limit and also to a large extent a tiny mind link are the powerful pilot talents, and it's hard to effectively run them and safely run them in terms of for a tiny mind link on a ship that doesn't have a green turn. So.
I will say that with the Star Viper, I cannot see you ever wanting to give push the limit on that ship. You just don't want to do it.
Right. Now.
I've flown a bunch, and it's just not the ship. And that's one of the things that's different, that people never liked the Star Viper because they kept thinking of it as an interceptor, like a TIE interceptor, and they kept wanting to push the limit on it because it's got boost and barrel roll, and it wouldn't work, therefore it's a bad ship. But I always found that the Star Viper was not an arc dodger, but it was one that would get where it needed to. It was a chaser. It would chase after the ship that was basically the turret wing that's trying to run away and still get it in a firing arc. And that's what I feel the ship is really good at, just continuing to chase after somebody and to continue to be shooting at that same person. But it is not a push the limit arc dodger, and that's the real thing. That if you can just get rid of that mentality and you don't fly like a TIE interceptor, you can enjoy the ship. But if the people who don't like it have a hard time giving up on that concept.
Yeah, but I mean, people first looked at this and wanted to make it an arc dodger, and that it doesn't work like that.
And then basically, people look at the Protectorate Starfighter with the title, which gives it the bonuses when you're in range 1 of somebody in their firing arc. So you've either got an arc dodger, or you've got this Fangfighter that wants to get in your face and can light you up. And then the people will say the Star Viper doesn't have any of those, and it's not, therefore there's no place for it, which is silly because it's a very maneuverable ship, and even the generics, and there are places for it. So I think it just takes.
I just noticed that the Star Viper doesn't have a hard 3. What the heck?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Apparently all scum ships are what's going on?
They came out about the same time. The Carax and Star Viper.
That was fashionable.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously a fix. I've only flown the Star Viper a couple of times, and they always get shot out from under me pretty fast. So I can't really comment very much on.
Yeah, the other thing that's keeping
the best way to fly them, unfortunately.
I'll say that the dial not having the green turn made it not possible to make this an Arc Dodger. We've covered that. But another thing that is limiting about this ship in terms of its durability is the lack of an evade action. So it has focus, target lock, barrel roll, boost, right? Which are cool actions. But if you ever wanted to make this a defensively tanky ship, then it would have been really nice to have the option to take evades, right? And you could very easily imagine this ship, doing the kind of maneuvers that you would associate with the evade action, right? It's supposed to be an incredibly agile ship. So it makes sense for it to have an evade action on its bar, but, it doesn't have one. So I used to, Jim and I used to fly Prince Shizor. Prince Shizor's ability is very, very defensive. And if I had been able to take an evade instead of being limited only to the focus action, then I could have had a much more effective defense in very critical situations, especially if I was also using Glitter Stem, because Glitter Stem is infinite focus, right? So if I was able to if I was able to trigger Glitter Stem and evade on a turn where Shizor was defensively compromised, then that would have been very, very helpful to make that a more viable ship, right? Also,
I was actually just looking through some of the scum ships just because it pegged in my mind. There aren't many at all that have evade tokens. The Aggressor, I think, has it.
I believe the Sick has an evade also.
Yeah, the Seek definitely would.
Yeah.
But I think the Aggressor might be the only other one, at least that I can find at quick. Well, the Fire Spray would have one. But there's not very many in general. So the Scum have all these crazy, agile, supposedly very maneuverable ships like the Protectorate and like this one. And yet they don't have the evades. I sort of understand the Protectorate from kind of a fluff perspective of we're not trying to evade. We're just trying to, charge in and just, do damage. But it does make sense. It's like, why doesn't this one have it? And to me, it comes down to, well, they can only give it 4 things. We can only give it 4 actions.
Right. They ran out of space on the action bar. They wanted to have boost and barrel roll. And they
focus target lock.
It has a torpedo slot, so it needed to have target lock.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I get it, and that's where I'm sort of surprised that they don't have at least one pilot that gives them some kind of evade-ish type of skill, and maybe that's what we'll see.
Prince Shizor does have, Prince Shizor's ability is very much like an evade, but unfortunately, it doesn't work against Twin Laser Turret. That was very disappointing.
Yeah, that was the Shizor killer.
Because it could have, if he had been resistant to Twin Laser Turret, that would have been great.
He would have been the TLT killer. He would have been like.
Yeah, and maybe history would be different.
TLT works on all ships except for Prince Shizor. Just says that in the text.
Yeah, I mean, just a very simple wording change would have done it on his ability or Twin Laser Turret, because it was Twin Laser Turret does 1 damage at the end of the day, right? And 1 damage is the amount of damage that Shizor can pawn off on other people. But because of the wording of the card, that damage comes after the point at which Shizor gives his damage to someone else. So it skips his step. It circumvents Shizor's ability. If it hadn't done that, then Shizor would have been very well positioned to fight Twin Laser Turret.
Now, I I do have seen, just to say, for people talking about the new ships or the new title with some of the named people who can also take the Virago title. If you can, which allows you to take a system slot, if you can take this particular title, which gives you the Whisper Bank barrel roll maneuver, or the Lieutenant Laurier.
Echo. Yeah, it's more than Echo.
Echo, sorry. See how much I can use the Phantom. And then you use advanced sensors, so that basically you can do your action before you move. So if you can actually do your weird little, barrel roll bank thing, and then do a different maneuver, like you can do a one hard turn, back the way you came. So you basically must flip in the same spot facing the other direction. Or if you do a sloop at that point, after you do your weird little whatnot. And they had like the diagram, they had used Vassal and kind of diagrammed out like all the freaking spaces you can end up with advanced sensors. And it was like some fractal flower thing. It was really just, it was everywhere. It was insane.
Yeah.
So just the repositionability with the advanced sensors and this title is crazy. And Guri's one that wants to get within range of somebody, basically free focus.
Right. Guri works really well with this title because I think it suits ships that want to, get in there very close and get in around people's arcs. With advanced sensors, like you say, that offers a lot of opportunities to really get in there and get in people's faces and get outside of their arcs. And perhaps it would be a good ship to put a tiny mind link on, because Guri would feed the mind link chain, assuming that nothing bad happens to mind link, which is not a safe assumption.
Right.
And that would be a shame if something happened to mind link, because I really do believe that mind link itself is not at its core a broken ability. It's just that it can be broken by stuff, and it can be abused, I guess. Anyway,
another system that can be used well with this ship is fire control system, because this is a very maneuverable ship if you use your actions to to get around, but then you need to have your dice modification. And I think about like this funky bank barrel roll, and then having, say, fire control system. You could possibly this ship has like it has all the speed 1 maneuvers. They can go 1 hard turn, 1 bank, and 1 straight. And there are a few ships that can do all speed 1 maneuvers in the game. Like there's not a lot. And this ship is actually an excellent knife fighter.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you can do like a 1 forward when you're approaching someone and then do that bank, you could completely arc dodge at that point.
Yeah.
You could actually get like right in someone's face, arc dodge, and you'd be shooting them outside of their arc, and then you've got, let's say, fire control system. Like that whole 1 bank thing does very well, and I think fire control system does well because you need to have that dice modification.
I would say, it depends on what pilot you're using, but I think that advanced sensors is the better knife fighter system, just because you would then be able to do your funky barrel roll before you move, so you'd be able to take more advantage and adjust your flight path in ways that you wouldn't be able to if you're just packing fire control system. But fire control system is really good also.
Yeah, and also if you want to go with another non-tiny mind link EPT, expertise would also be a good one on someone who, let's say, wants to take advanced sensors, because then you can expertise, so you've got your dice modification. Probably not the best on Guri, because Guri's might be getting the free focus, but on Shizor or some of these other newer ones, that could be a good one to try to do if you're not going for the veteran instinct, that is, for Shizor.
Yeah. I think we were all gonna do a little bit of talk about a specific ship build. For this one, I think that I would want to make a new Prince Shizor build, taking advantage of this title. And what I want to do with Shizor is make him really offensively dangerous. And I think that one way that you might be able to do this is actually taking advantage of the torpedo slot. So this is a slot that doesn't get a lot of attention on the Star Viper.
I found that torpedo slot essential on my Shizor build.
You used a flechette, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that's a pretty cool idea to add an element of control. I was using mine.
It was critical for robots.
Yeah. So my build is both titles, fire control system, intensity, scavenger crane, guidance ships, and proton torpedoes.
Okay, yeah.
So this is pretty funky. I don't know if this is actually good or not, but it's definitely funky and interesting. So you get the impression here that I want to be blasting people with these proton torpedoes. I want to be using the funky barrel to get around. I want to use intensity to give me access to focus and evade on top of the barrel roll without adding any stress.
That's a good thing because we need to talk about it, but I was going to mention it.
Fire control system helps the duty cycle with firing your proton torpedoes, and then I took guidance chips instead of auto thrusters. Your mileage may vary there, but I thought that I thought the offensive element, modding the proton torpedo shot, was better.
Yeah.
And then scavenger crane to get back your torpedoes. Hopefully, you nail something. I think it wouldn't be too hard to have I think your average roll with a proton torpedo with guidance chips is 3 or 4 hits and crits. I mean, it's hard to get something. It's impossible. It's almost impossible to get under 2 hits with this setup because guidance chips will give you at least 1.
Yep.
And it'll actually be turning a dice to a crit because your attack value is 3. And then proton torpedoes
How many dice is
itself.
advanced proton torpedo?
It's 4 dice. So guidance chips, it gives you a hit normally, and it can give you a crit if your primary weapon value is 3 or higher.
Yeah.
So you're changing one. You're always changing at least 1 die to a crit, and if you roll at least 1 eyeball, you can change that to a crit as well. So in order to
you wouldn't get the target lock, would you?
You spend the target lock.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just using the X-Wing calculator here, looking at it without a target lock, 4 attack die with a focus, guidance chip, advanced proton torpedo. Expected damage is 3.6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 2 of those are going to be, 2 of those dice results are usually going to be criticals.
Actually, I forgot to knock out the agility dice. So expected damage is actually 4.
Jeez.
With
no agility dice. I mean,
any agility. Yeah, so that's pretty brutal.
Yeah. So I think that's a pretty cool setup, and hopefully you get that torpedo back. Well, you definitely get the torpedo back if someone dies, and you get to trigger your scavenger crane. Maybe you get it back twice if you're even lucky. Mm-hmm. And of course, you're regenerating your target lock as long as you haven't destroyed your target. So I think that's a pretty interesting little build. I don't know if it's actually going to be good or not, because there's a lot of problems with this. Like, you have to regenerate intensity sometimes. That there's nothing built into this that lets you regenerate your intensity card with any sort of regularity, right? I guess you could do something like feed it tokens with Manaroo, but then at that point, why not just use a tiny mind link or something like that? You know,
right? Or even Guri with it could do some damage.
Right. Mind linked to Guri. That could be pretty cool.
Or even just Guri with the advanced numbing.
Yeah, I think at that point you would probably want to change out your proton torpedo for a different sort of torpedo, because the advantage to proton torpedo is that it changes focus results to crits. So if you have a focus token anyway, it's not that great. It lets you save your focus, I guess, and it means that you don't need to keep your focus to modify your dice so much, but the soft focus is less valuable if you're getting a focus token anyway.
So I wanted to go ahead and do I did a rebuild for Shizor, since we're talking about rebuilds and you talked about Shizor. So I went with both titles. I went with expertise for the offensive capability. I went with auto thrusters, and my system slot is sensor jammer. And for the illicit, I want the glitter stim. And then threw in a flechette torpedo just for the control factor. So basically, really hard to hit Shizor, who can be doing this boosting and barrel rolling, and doesn't matter what action he takes because he'll be getting his expertise for the dice modification.
Cool.
Or maybe he takes his focus and he uses it for his, defensive role or whatnot.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool Shizor. I think it's it's got some offensive power, right? It's got a good amount of maneuverability because you have a free action.
Yep.
You're not using it. You're not married to your actions much. It's got a little bit of control with the flechette torpedoes. Though I wish that flechette torpedoes, I guess they're cheap.
They're cheap, but they're also 3 attack dice.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do 3 attack dice at range 3, they're not getting the range bonus. I mean,
they're not bad. They're not bad. I just wish they were maybe they didn't have that hull restriction where they don't give the stress above a certain hull value. That's right?
Yeah.
Or maybe they did full damage instead of just
they do full damage,
isn't it?
No.
Oh no, it is full damage. Excuse me.
No,
you're right.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like a regular attack, but at range
I'd forgotten about that.
That's what's awesome about it. So it's like, oh no, you're fighting against a ship that's bigger hull. Well, I'll fire it anyways because you don't cause a stress, but they're not getting a range modifier. It's still
it's not bad.
It's too bad the Karax can't take a torpedo slot, because then you could go for flechette torpedo for 1 point, which is awesome. Yeah. But you can't. So
you know what I really want to make work on this is advanced proton torpedoes.
Yeah,
but it's tough. Those 6 points. It's so expensive. It's hard. It's so hard to justify. Maybe you could use it with a tiny mind link, Guri friend. And scavenger crane. I think if you have advanced proton torpedoes, you definitely also want to put scavenger crane on your ship, because you need to make those 6 points. You need to get some mileage out of those 6 points.
Oh yeah, because advanced proton torpedo is 5 red dice.
It's 5 red dice, and you get a whole bunch of those.
3 of your blank results change to eyeball results.
Yeah.
So if you've got,
you're pretty much hitting with everything.
Yeah, if you've got your focus as well, you're hitting.
Yeah, you need a focus, but yeah, if you have a focus, it's so good.
Yeah, but I need to recalculate it because I didn't even get. I had only 4 red dice.
Yeah, but on the other hand, just your primary attack is 4 dice, and in order to make advanced proton torpedoes work, you need a focus and a target lock. So how much of a difference is there between 4 dice with target lock and focus and 5 dice with advanced proton torpedo ability and focus? It's not a ton of difference. It's not 6 points worth of difference, right?
Yeah.
So
okay. So if you have your focus and guidance chip on Advanced Proton Torpedo,
it's almost impossible not to get 5 hits. Yeah.
Your expected damage, not counting any green dice, your expected damage is 4.99.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You have to roll all blanks.
Critical hit chance.
Are we seriously using a calculator now to figure out builds here?
X-Wing calculator website. Yeah.
This feels like it's going beyond the bounds of my casual fandom.
All right. So, J-Bot, do you happen to have a build that you want to talk about? Either the Karax or the Star Viper?
Yeah, it's really just an adjustment to my Karax build, and it's probably going to make no sense to y'all since it really fits into a list. But and I'm sure I've screwed it up. But basically, I went to spend the 2 points that I had lost now with the new fancy title and fit some more garbage to my ship. So originally, and like I said, it's not going to make a ton of sense without the rest of the list, but originally it was Graz the Hunter with a stealth device and cluster missiles. And now I'm going to adjust that to the new guy, whose name I just suddenly slipped my mind. Victor Hel. Victor Hel. I'm actually gonna change it to him since it's the same cost and it gives me the EPT slot that I was actually wanting. And I'm gonna keep my stealth device and keep the cluster missile because that's part of the list's theme. But I'm gonna add fearlessness to it since it's now free. Pulse ray shield for 1 point, one of my 2 points that I just gained back. And then I actually had a toss up here, and I'm gonna have to test to see which one I like more. My first thought was a scavenger crane, because the idea here is that it should be melting somebody's face if I get in that close to fire the cluster missiles. And the other option was actually cloaking device to get me there. So that was my slot, was choosing between those two.
Because you can also throw in guidance chip.
Yeah, guidance chip's on there. That I thought that was a gimme. But but my choice here is like, well, with the cloaking device, it actually plays into his pilot ability, just like the stealth device does. But the cloaking device also gives me the option of basically decloaking and jumping forward really fast as an option, assuming it doesn't burn out on the first turn, which they tend to do to me. But the scavenger crane has that ability to theoretically pick up the cluster missile if I am able to actually use it. And this is a hit and run list. Like the design of the whole list is to be very jump in, hit, and then run, and then turn around and kind of come back and do the same thing. And the ability to fire a cluster missile off and possibly get it back if I do everything else right is a very comforting thought. So
yeah,
I have to see which of those two I like when I start playing with it, because I've been running this build now for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, and I actually do enjoy it because it's just so like it either dies fast or it kills people fast. So the games tend to end pretty quick.
And that fearlessness with the cluster missile, getting that extra hit for each of those dice.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing just to see. But I had a thought with that. The illicit slot's the one that's always kind of up in the air for me, because there's also the what the hell this guy's called now? Black market slicer tools, with a ship that theoretically is handing out stress or causing people to stress if they're firing at them. There's always that, hey, look, I've got them. I might as well use them if I'm not in a really good position to get a good shot off, sort of thing. But because they're free, if you don't have anything else, you might as well put the black market slicer tools on the ship since it's free if you have the title.
True. I have to lean towards glitter stem because particularly on that round when you are in range 1 and you want to maximize the number of hits.
Well, I mean, cluster missiles is range 1 too, so.
But that's what I mean. Like your cluster missiles combined with fearlessness.
Is it range 1 to 2? Is what I'm saying. It's the cluster missile is.
But if you can get within range 1 with the cluster missiles, you get the extra hit added into the fearlessness.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, but then
that's part of it. That's why I wanted that so bad. I just couldn't fit the higher level.
If you pop the glitter stem at that same round, any of your eyeballs will also turn to hits, just kind of exponentially increasing the damage output of both cluster missiles would be just vicious.
It could, but it's a one-time use too, versus
just like the missile.
But the scavenger crane gives me a chance of getting it back. Is the idea there? So
all right,
that's the reason I thought about it or the cloaking device and not glitter stem. And I'm not I know glitter stems are powerful and everybody loves it and it's the only illicit worth a damn, but I'm not a fan of it personally. So, but you have it in every list, Jim.
No, I don't.
What did you have on your She-Sword list just a second ago?
It was glitter stem, but I don't have it in every. I don't have it in every slot available. All right. I hear you. I think it's pretty cool concept. I like the idea of fearlessness with the cluster missiles.
And you've seen the rest of the list. I don't want to give the whole thing away, but you've seen the rest of the list, and it can be devastating. Blake got lucky. I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. Blake got stupidly lucky, or he should have gotten run off the table with that list. Because it's like I melted Luke in one turn without the optimum guy. It was a secondary guy that melted through Luke in one turn.
Awesome.
And yeah, I mean, but it was like, how did he not go off the table? It was one of those where if this was tournament and we were following the official, movement things, and I wasn't just saying, yeah, close enough, then he probably runs off the table with the other guy. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun list. That's what I'm enjoying about it and why I keep playing it. So this just adds more kind of depth to it, which is what I like.
Yeah. Excellent. Cool. All right. So Biff.
So my little cobbling is kind of along the same lines as what J-Bot did, but I'll describe J-Bot's as like a 200 level or a 300 level list, and this is my 100 level intro.
About that?
Are you trying to say that you were hoping to go to sleep and have elves come in and cobble your list together for you?
Yeah, get my
Biff's cramming for this exam, and J-Bot was actually prepared. What happened there?
So I also was playing off the K-Fighter, but I chose the Black Sun Ace, and I too have got the cluster missiles with the new title and the stealth device and the pulsed ray shield, because I too am kind of going after this notion of a little bit of hit and run. And I'm also trying to leverage the scavenger crane to not only try to recoup the cluster missiles, but quite possibly even recouping the stealth device, depending upon how my situation may play out. To help control range, I'm going with vectored thrusters to get the barrel roll action. And where I kind of go off, and rather than using the EPT for like the fearlessness, which is probably in my mind like a 200, 300 level type kind of capability as far as linking everything together, I went for the kind of more brute, in your face, hit and run mentality of the snapshot, which again is only effective at a range 1. But if I'm able to take somebody out at that range, it's just another opportunity to recoup cluster or a stealth device that's already been lost.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider fearlessness a high level thing. To me, it's just when the Protectorate first came out, I loved the idea of fearlessness because to me it was a pure jousting thing. It was a pure, I am going to just run straight at you, and I'm going to be better than you at shooting you up close. Was why I love fearlessness so much. But it does take a bit of kind of gumption to actually do that, especially these days where everybody at range 1, I got 5 or 6 or 7 dice at range 1. It does kind of take a bit of gumption to say, well, to hell with that. I've got 4, 5, or 6 dice too. Let's just roll off and see who wins. But no, it's fun. I think to me, I like the corrects just because there's so many things you can do. And I think from a casual perspective, and I know you guys probably haven't thought about this, but the 20-point Kirax that's out there is an amazing ship for the modified class in Mario Kart now, with the title and a crap ton of mods and lots of points to spend. I saw that and I'm like, oh, that ship suddenly became great in Mario Kart because it's cheap and you can fit a whole bunch on it for 4 points in a title that lets you have 3 mods and everything for a point cheaper. So
that's true.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, that's incredible. I'm gonna have to make up a couple of those and see how they fly, or they probably broke it again, which is what tends to happen. So
yeah, Very cool. Very cool. I like it. All right, so I think we've been going for more than an hour.
Yeah, a little while.
Do we? You want to go ahead and end it here? Because I think I do see Endor coming up on the
Yeah.
the little flashy lights. Or
I'll do one very quick round of speculation on the harpooned cards and ion disc something or eye disc. Harpooned cards sort of there's a couple of condition cards in this pack that say harpooned. And if you read the text, it is essentially acting like a assault missile that triggers when you roll a critical hit on someone that's been hit with a harpoon missile of some sort, right? So that's what that is. We don't know like anything else about it, so who knows what that thing is gonna really be like. Could be any sort of thing. There's also this eye disc card that's mostly covered up. It's got some blue lightning on it. It's definitely going to be something to do with ion tokens. I think it's going to be some kind of funky ion transfer type deal. It has a lot of text on it, so it's not going to be like a simple straight up when you get assigned an ion token, you can give it to someone else. Have fun. It's going to be, I think maybe it's after you. The first thing on the first couple words are after you something token, blah blah blah. So it's either after you get an ion token or after you move an ion token. I think you can damage or put it on another ship, and then you probably get some sort of token back. After that, something like that. There's some sort of choice in there. It looks interesting. I think it's going to be cool. I think it might pair very well with Pulsed Ray Shield because that gives you an ion token. So then with that ion token, you can do whatever this card is telling you to do. So my antennae are up for this card, and there's 2 of them in this pack.
Yeah.
Yep, and 2 cards besides Harpoon that are linked to what look like pilots. That,
there's 2 conditions on
conditions as well. So.
Yeah.
Oh, is it on 2 conditions on one person?
Yeah, they're both on Thweek.
Wow, how can you tell?
Because they both say Thweek as the first word in their card.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't.
That's
have
how we didn't even know that guy's name is Thweek. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and
also
no one really knows what those are.
Cardboard too.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, that's good. I'm excited.
Yeah. So a lot of those, I'm more willing just to wait and see.
Sure.
I don't need to.
Yeah.
To think about what the heck. But
they're not worth a whole lot of thought at this point.
But I think it's pretty good. So overall, I think it's pretty cool bit of news. So there was only 3 new items, but there was a lot of stuff to talk about. So I liked it. I thought it was pretty fun.
Awesome.
Excellent.
It's exciting.
Woohoo!
Yeah, but you guys, why isn't this an X-Wing fix? What garbage?
Because we got to get rid of Big first, and then we can do it. Just wait till the great nerfing comes. Then
but this game is called X-Wing. Why can't I play an X-Wing, Jim?
Right. Yeah.
Well, actually, there have been a bunch of people who've been playing.
Why do you hate X-Wings?
E65s and actually won a store championship with it. So.
Why does FFG hate X-Wings? That's what I want to know.
I think they do.
I'm
too.
leaving.
I think what this does is like they do in other game systems. This confirms something that everybody thinks is eventually going to happen. So this, for me, this whole thing just confirms 2.0. or the assault gunboat has now been pushed back for like another.
I would love to just see your post on the forum. 2.0 confirmed. And you just this is your evidence.
Right, yeah. Start doing the shadowy like
you should,
UFO
style that's what you should.
Stuff.
You know,
2.0 confirmed.
This is what you should be doing on the forums, JBot. You should be just going in. You know, I would love it if after every news release you just went in and said 2.0 confirmed, and you had like some conspiracy theory that release fed into.
Well, there's going to be FFG people at Gen Con, right? Because I have half a mind to videotape them, like just a general conversations, and then do one of those like lip reading dub over things of them like these guys are never going to believe 2.0 coming out, like that sort of thing. Every conversation that they're having, just like we interviewed them and asked them about the new Sea-Rock that just came out. Yeah, the Sea-Rock, and then dub over is confirmation of 2.0 confirmed. You know, like that. Just
and of course, sounds just like.
Yeah.
No, it's not. That would be a fun conspiracy theory to drag out.
Yeah.
And then it ends up being true. That'd be
right.
Yeah. That'd be the real.
The funnier thing would be if Gen Con was where they announced it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty hilarious.
People are like, no one ever believed that J-Bot was saying that like 3 months ago. It's all a joke. It's all a hoax.
All right, so I think that about does it for tonight. It is a bit late, so thanks again for tuning in to the Shuttle Tydirium Podcast, where we make mistakes so you don't have to. All right, everybody, have a good night.
What mistake did we make this week?
We always make mistakes. I do, or Biff does. Somebody.
Yeah. I mean, I basically lifted an idea out of the article without knowing about it. So.
Yeah.
But
the mistake was.
Sold that. I can't believe they didn't mention that.
Yeah. The mistake was discussing Expose.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Y'all
don't
kind of go off.
Don't
on a
bother.
Tangent on Expose.
True.
Yeah.
So just a tidbit from this one needs to be like exposed or not to expose, that sort of thing. We exposed.
Yeah.
Expose.
A special expose.
Expose on exposed. Exposed.
Dispose of exposed.
Exposed.
2.0 confirmed.
A special expose from the
2.0 confirmed. If I see a fix for Biggs, I'm totally going to start doing that. Like, there's finally a fix for Biggs, 2.0 confirmed. Like, just immediately, this needs to be the very next thing. Because if they fix Biggs, that means they're close. They're close to changing the whole game.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I better head to bed. I'm going to get up in a few hours. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to help us continue improving and expanding our channel's content.